Beer Guys Radio. We are live. We are here. It is a good time. It's the last day of May
It is,
2023.
yes.
Can you believe we're about to hit the 6th month of the year? Does that even make any
Wow.
sense?
Yeah,
What
that is
is
crazy.
what even is time?
What
It's just
even is
flying by.
time? It's a construct, right? Time is a
Oh, I remember the
construct.
song. It's "Baby, Don't Hurt Me, Don't Hurt Me." No, oh no, that's a different thing.
Don't hurt me. No.
Yeah.
That's what, yeah. What is
What is
time, baby? What's up, everybody? How you guys doing?
Oh, I'm loopy. I'm so loopy.
It's been a
from
minute.
travel.
Brian, you did Florida.
I did.
You did Florida. We'll talk about that a little bit more.
Part of
but
Florida, a very small sliver of Florida.
Yes. Nate,
Yeah.
you did Florida.
I did Florida, a different
was-
small
I was-
sliver of
I
Florida.
was the only one not in Florida. I should have went down to Miami. We could cover the whole state. We could have taken over.
Yeah,
there,
but between the three of us, all of it. Yeah, every single bit.
Yeah. Mhm.
Memorial Day weekend, holiday weekend, having a good time as you do. I went over to Smalls's house. She had a housewarming party, so I went over to Smalls and we fired up the grill and she roasted some stuffed chickens that were stuffed with crawfish and all kinds of good stuff. It was a good time. It was
Yeah.
a good time, man. A little bit of chill.
Wish I had made it to that because I have
Yeah, it
a
was a good
lot of
time.
interesting large format beers I would like to
Yep.
open up with other people.
You
And that
remember
was
Evan Leet from our bottle sharing days?
Yeah,
Elite
yeah.
on the Reddits. He was there. And him and his wife and his two kids. And see, I haven't seen him probably in a few years because we talked about how bottle sharing has just kind of died down. You know, it's just not quite what it was at one time. And that was when we saw each other, you know, back when we had these raging bottle shares, man. We would see all of our beer drinking homies and they just don't happen like they used to anymore. And I remember Evan sharing, you know, him and his wife were about to have their first child. And he when I saw him, he had a toddler with him. I was like, "This your little one?" He's like, "Yeah, this is actually the second little one." And like the one that I was thinking was like 3 is actually 6. And, you know, that happens when you don't see people that often. Like a newborn will be 6 years old in 3 months.
I was thinking it's like, oh yeah, graduated college. Wait, what?
Yeah,
that's the way time seems to go. Yeah.
Yeah. My cousin's daughter got married last weekend, and like I remember her vividly as a newborn. I'm like, she can't get married, you know, she's only like 4. I mean, she's 26 maybe, but it just doesn't seem like it. Tyler, thanks for dropping in. We got a beer here to get started. Tyler is having Martin House Death by Chocolate out by the pool and listening. Thanks, Tyler. You know, we hear so much about Martin House, but most of the stuff that I hear about from them is the crazy stuff like hot dog water and chicken wing and ranch dressing and that's what I usually hear about. I don't hear about like their regular beers like Death by Chocolate. That sounds delicious. I'm on board for it.
And the surprisingly tame and everybody's doing it pickle beer. They were one of the first people doing that. Yeah. And better turn off my Alexa device.
Oh yeah, they'll listen in. They'll pick up words you didn't even know you were triggering them, and they'll pick them up.
Yeah, there. Apparently Martin House is triggering for my devices.
Triggered.
So, I mean,
triggered.
That's I'm not surprised because Martin House triggers a lot of other people and things too. Yeah. So yeah,
Martin House likes to be triggering there. That's for sure. Well, cool guys. Well, y'all, if you have anything to say, you know, with BGR 2.0, we'll chat with you during the show. You don't have to wait for those breaks anymore. So if you got something to say, throw it out there. We'll get into it, but we're going to start recording here. Guys, Brian's opening a beer. I need to do the same. Beer. I got something you guys don't got.
Got a beer?
I've got something. I will share this with you when I see you because our buddy Joe from Scofflaw dropped off some beer.
Oh, yeah.
So I've got
beer for you boys, too.
I've got stuff. There's beer everywhere.
There's beer everywhere.
Good stuff. All right. Well, let me get this poured. And we will get going. All right. I'm pouring too hard. Good head on this, though.
That's why I prefer the oversized glassware, so I can pour as hard as I want. And
big old bowl of beer.
Yes, I've got to hit the whole. I had a bowl of gravy, Tim, while I was gone. I
saw that. Congratulations.
That. Yeah, I did.
No, you shared a picture and
did I?
Talking about that. Yeah.
Wow. It was a long weekend.
Yeah. So congrats on that. A bowl of gravy. That's the trip complete, Brian. Trip complete. So cool. All right, guys, here we go. Welcome, everybody, to the Beer Guys Radio Show. Thank you so much for joining us this week. This is episode 368 of Beer Guys Radio. We're coming off of the Memorial Day weekend. get back in the saddle. Short week at work, so that's always nice. Always nice to have a little bit of a short week. I always feel weird with those though. Like the days don't make sense. Tuesday's Wednesday, Wednesday's Friday. Who even knows what's going on there, man? Who even knows? I don't.
I could get used to it.
I don't. But we've got a good show ahead of us here. I am Tim Dennis. Mike Nate, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good, man. How was your weekend?
It was good. Went to Florida, checked out a couple of breweries down there in the Panhandle area. The drive was not great, but the beer was pretty good.
That's good. That's good. Brian, did I throw you off there jumping to Mo Mike Nate first?
Well, just a bit, but I'm not too worried about it because the transition to Mo Mike Nate is always awkward. So it's better that you handle it than me.
Just take care of it there. It's
right.
I wasn't awkward.
Get that out of the way.
I was super smooth,
buttery,
I'm known
smooth.
to be. But
yeah.
Brian, how the heck are you, man?
I'm doing good. I am here. I'm not as exhausted as I thought I would be.
Yeah.
Having just gotten back from my own personal trip to Florida. So on this show, we're going to talk about dangerous flies, the opposite of selling out and whatever that might be. I don't know.
Okay.
Shipping beer, crime-fighting monks, and a bunch more stuff. If we had rails for this show, we would be completely off them.
By the time that sounds like
anyway.
a lot of stuff, man.
Oh, yeah. It's a lot of stuff. So that is the plan for the show. So how are you doing, Tim? You stayed here?
I'm good. I hung around local. That's I'm actually kind of homebody-ish in general. I don't travel as much as I used to. I kind of want to, and I'm kind of too lazy to. But Smalls had a housewarming party, so went over there. She was recently married, so it was kind of a combo party. So went over, hung out, had some drinks. Shared some beers with some folks. Saw some friends I hadn't seen in a while. Of course, the grill was fired up there, and that's always a good time. So I also caught up on Ted Lasso. Which, let me tell you, y'all, I don't frequently sit down and watch TV. And I hung out. I ordered takeout or Uber Eats. I guess that's considered takeout. I didn't have to take it out. Someone else did that. But ordered food, sat down, caught up on Ted Lasso one day, just chilled. And y'all, it was super nice. It was really, really nice to do that. So, good times all around. Nice, relaxing weekend for sure.
That's a good show, and I'm still watching it. I'm for whatever reason, I'm not a big fan of the series, the TV show series concept. Now, I really like things to be done in an hour and a half, and maybe maximum 2 hours. Bow on it, done, complete. But Ted Lasso, I like and enjoy. I even don't even mind waiting in between episodes. I wish I didn't have to, but enjoy that. So. I'm right there with you. I think that sounds like as much fun as just going down to another place and drinking lot of exotic beer. Yeah.
Yeah. I saw a meme talking about sitting down and watching TV, and it said, "Hey, how would you like to sit down and watch a 10-hour movie?" And they're like, "Oh my God, no, never." They're like, "Well, how about I break it into 10 episodes of 1 hour each and you just binge them all at once?" They're like, "You got me. I'm in. I'm in."
USOB. I'm in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bob, thanks for checking in again. Keep us posted on this. We had brief update, but New Jersey beer laws are starting to improve past the first stage, and they've got some challenges there. So I hope that it keeps moving along for them. And
that'd be great.
Get things broken down there. But Brian, I tell you what, man, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you hit up in Florida?
Yeah, I got in as many as I could. I wound up going to 4 different places, 3 of them breweries, one of them a really good bottle shop. I started off at Rock Pit Brewing, that's in Orlando, Florida, and had a couple of beers there. Fun place, good barbecue, neat mining theme, and it was fun. Then I went to GB's Bottle Shop, and I love that place. It was highly recommended on social media, and I did a fair amount. Not social media, but like Reddit. I guess that's sort of social media.
I get sort of. Yeah, it counts.
A number of people said, "Hey, that's the best game in town if you want to buy beer or if you just want to sit around and drink off of a great tap list." I'm like, all right, I'm game for that. They were great. They were great. I had a bunch of interesting things. I did a shot of Underberg with a chaser. I've never done that before. So Scrimshaw Pilsner as a chaser is actually a pretty interesting thing. I've never seen this before. They actually pour the bottles into a glass because they don't care for the way it is difficult to get the Underberg out.
It is a little hard. Yeah, it's a little difficult to get it out of the tiny bottle.
So I thought that was pretty brilliant. But yeah, I had an interesting, I think it was like a Brazilian Chicago Japanese fusion breweries beer called Jappus, I think, and they had a Rio de Janeiro Maru, which is a double northeast IPA with kumquat, and that led me down a whole trail of discovery as to what the heck a kumquat is. Here, I was thinking it was some sort of interesting tropical plum, and it turns out I guess it's just a small citrus plant, right? Or a small citrus fruit, and I just had no idea.
I believe the skin is edible on kumquats. Like you just go for it. Just go for it.
From what I read, apparently the skin is the sweetest part. It's possibly the most enjoyable, which blows my mind. Citrus where you eat the skin. So, yeah, that was fun. I went out to Cape Canaveral just because I wanted to see the beach, and that was probably the closest thing to me. And I stopped by Carib Brewing. They do a lot of lagers, so it's hot over there, and I do like the lagers. So I hung out there, ate their freshly popped popcorn, which they keep bringing around, which I love, and was drinking lagers. And then I came back to what I think is probably my favorite Orlando brewery right now, based upon my limited experience, Deadwords Brewing. And they had a number of medal winning beers. Their Bridge American Lager, 2022 GABF gold winner for American Lager. And they had a Harvest Moon Saison, which they aged on Spanish cedar, which was fantastic. And that won another medal for a different competition. And even had a SEMA, SIMA, a Finnish SEMA, which is something I haven't even thought of since back in the days when we homebrewed it like a decade ago.
Right, because we
blew my mind.
We made some SEMA, and I actually, because I knew you tried the SEMA, I looked up a little info to share here, Brian. So it's called a Finnish spring mead, and as far as I know, the recipes I've seen don't use any honey; it's just sugar that they use in there. So, but it is known as a Finnish spring mead, brewed for what they call the Vappu festival, which is the May Day festivities, and Vappu literally translates to 1st of May. So I guess that makes sense. But made with sugar, lemon, and yeast, and it can be spiced, or is often spiced, with crushed cloves. It's a pretty quick fermenting. You know, you're not looking at 2 weeks. It's a few days on this one. You know, it's not a long ferment. Alcohol is probably negligible in this. I believe I've seen it. It's real popular with the kids. You know, so it's not something on the traditional one that they do. We'll talk more about the one you had here in a minute.
Like a 1% or even under, or
I doubt it's even hitting 1%. Really, with the way you do it, I mean, I think it's probably something that if you put enough sugar in there and you gave it enough time, it may chew down through there a little more. But you're probably rocking almost like an NA beer. I bet you're looking, you know, less than 0.5%. I don't know that for a fact. I may be talking out the other side of my head, but I just kind of assume with the time that you're fermenting and what you're doing there that it's probably not, you know, not that much. But quick ferment, couple days. When we did it homebrew, Brian, we did it straight in the bottles. You know, we just put everything in there. And one tip that they gave for homebrewing is put 1 or 2 raisins in each bottle, cold fermented in the fridge. And when the raisins come up, that's at the right carbonation level and you're good to go. So when they float up there, that tells you you're good to go. Larger batches, they may brew it and then strain it, rebottle it, you know, put it in. And again, may toss a couple of raisins in there. But this, it's slightly sweet, a little bit tart. Of course, I mean, sugar and lemon. That kind of makes sense. And it's enjoyed during that Vappu festival with something they call tipa lepa, which is essentially a type of funnel cake that they have there. So get you some SEMA, get you a funnel cake. I think we actually got crullers when we had ours, didn't we? Because it's like, well, nice. I kind of think as far as availability goes, this is about the best we can do. If you've never homebrewed before, this is super simple. If you want to do something just to play with a little bit of fermentation and to have a technically alcoholic beverage, this is a really easy one to do. So, you know, there's look up SEMA homebrew recipes online, SIMA. You're going to find several. All of them are very similar, but it was a fun one to play around with, something a little different than our typical beer and stuff that we do, Brian.
Yeah, I remember thinking that was, you know, super light, very effervescent, but I think I let some of the bottles go a little longer than they should have, right. And it gets really carbonated. So if those Grolsch swing top bottles, I would open one off and it would launch the swing top off and hit the ceiling. But you know, it didn't always explode, but yeah, you're running some real risk if you let it go. So you have to be very cautious with that. I would advise people the minute those grapes go up, you know, do something with that. Maybe if you have to, maybe even decant it or something like that, so you can prevent a problem. But the one I had was a little different than that, Tim. Should I go into that?
Tell us about it.
All
Let's
right.
hear about the one you had. Yeah.
So you said that they don't typically use a lot of honey in that. I think that's what you were
From
saying.
what I saw, there's not a lot of the recipes called for honey.
Is that like sugar in lemons? Well, this is a one of their quote resurgence things where they resurrect long forgotten recipes, stuff that's just not commonly brewed. It was a little bit different. It's a 5%er. They did in fact use two kinds of honey, not just one, but they used honey. They used two kinds: wildflower, orange blossom. Very heavy on the lemon influence. They had lemon peel in it, lemon juice. They used brown sugar in there. They used a little golden promise barley and a touch of lemon drop hops. So it was more substantial. Obviously had a lot more body to it. I thought it wasn't nearly as carbonated. It was very nice. It was sweeter and fruitier than I remember, because now it's been a few years, but I remember the other one being very crisp, very light, very effervescent, and this was a little bit more substantial. I thought it was good. I thought it was tasty. But it made me interested in going back and trying to make the one we made before. So I like that idea, and that might be something I could pull off, maybe without being killed for taking up a lot of kitchen space with fermentations. But yeah, it was kind of neat to get to revisit that, something I'd completely forgotten about, which made me enjoy like Dead Words Brewing just a little bit more. I'm like, oh, look at that. That's great.
Just a little more connection there, huh?
Yeah, and that was that was a great place. And SEMA, man, I hope people do that and let us know how it turns out. And maybe I'll end up doing a little bit myself, maybe like a half-gallon batch if I can pull that off.
That'd be cool.
Yeah,
I'd enjoy trying it again as well. Nate, how about you, man? What breweries did you hit down there in the Panhandle?
So I stayed in Carabel, Florida. There was not a whole lot of breweries around me. Specifically, there were two breweries near me. I went to East Point Brewing over in East Point, Florida, and I had a flight. I liked half of the beers that I had. Um, the Irish Stout and the Amber Ale were great, phenomenal. Blonde was good. The blonde was good. I just didn't like it. There was some weird flavor there. I was told at Oyster City, which is the second brewery I went to, that they had new owners, new management. So they were saying that they had swapped out a brewer and they were in the process of transitioning. Um, Oyster City over in Apalachicola was by far my favorite brewery that I visited. Their Hellas Lager was my favorite. They have a mangrove pale ale that they brew using mangoes, and that tasted really good. I didn't get mangoes out of it, but I did get a soft fruity note to it. And it's a rare time for me to see a California Commons on a draft wall, and they had one, and I had multiple pints of that.
Getting drunk, getting lit over there at Oyster City. If they're doing a mango beer, they need to get some of that thiolized yeast, because that'll bring that mango out if they want to accentuate that. That's we did where you were, Nate. You were down towards St. George Island, is that right?
Yes.
Down in that area. So we did the SGI Brew Fest, 5 years ago now? 4 or 5 years ago, Brian? But when we had our station in Tallahassee, they invited us down there to do that festival. So we got to meet a lot of the brewers, the Oyster City folks. Oyster City was a favorite of the morning DJ on the Tallahassee station, Greg Tish, their Hooter Brown. He was a big fan of. So yeah, we've had a good bit of that area's beer, going to the festival and that. We drank through there pretty good. But well, guys, I'm not envious of you because I had a good time here, but it sounds like some pretty good trips for the holiday weekend.
Yeah. And it's not related to beer at all, but I saw a tremendous amount of wildlife, like stuff that we would stop and stare at here in Atlanta that was just wandering around, like outside of an auto supply store or whatever, AutoZone, just random cranes walking around. They're like, whoa, look at those things with like red heads and things like that. Crazy. Yeah. So they got some interesting stuff going on down there in Florida.
Did you see any alligators?
I did. Yes.
I was because I knew at one time that was like a big goal for you, is I want to see some alligators in the wild. So
I haven't shared the videos with you. I do have videos. There is a park that I went to where you can walk out to the edge of the water and see them floating along and swimming around. And
yeah,
fortunately, gators are much more relaxed, because if they were crocodiles, I'd probably be dead.
right. Yeah, if unless they're trying to eat you, they're pretty chill from what I hear, unless they're bothered. So
Yeah, and it helps that I'm, as tall and as big as I am, and most of them, we saw a few that were probably in the 6 foot range, but a lot of them were like 4 footers. Like
okay.
they're really gonna hurt an ankle pretty bad, but I'm probably gonna be okay.
Teacup gators, I think is what they call those,
Yes,
Brian.
yes, like the
Yeah.
poodles, the teacup gator. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, let's get into our beers of the week, y'all. As always, when we want to thank our friends at the Nest for sponsoring this segment. Craft Beer Barbecue, Kennesaw, Georgia. Weather here has been beautiful, so their big patio has been a great place to be. Nate just spent some time there recently, twice, I think, in the last week. Nate has
Yes,
went
I
down
have.
to the Nest and had a good time. Had some of those sparkling pork rinds that they're known for, and just enjoying some beer on the patio. Really nice weather. I had intended to join Nate on the most recent trip. It got caught up and couldn't make it out there, but next time. But yeah, Craft Beer Barbecue. Again, the pork rinds, patio season, y'all. Get it before it's too hot or too. Have we had pollen season yet? We haven't, have we? Is that coming
We
up?
have.
We have, yeah.
It,
I,
it
I
was
haven't
light
seen,
this year. Then it wasn't as crazy as it
yeah, I haven't seen the
typically
big
is.
clouds of dust, but I've been
Yeah.
inside for a lot of it. But it's been nicer. I don't know
Okay.
how or
Good.
why, but I think it's been easier than previous years.
Fun. But go out and enjoy the Nest patio while you can. If it gets a little too hot, they've got a dining room and a bar area where you can chill out with air conditioning. Set in the bar area, the beer's closer. You don't have to wait as long to get it to you. It's right there where you need it. The Nest, Kennesaw, Georgia. Thank you guys again for sponsoring our beers of the week. So we're going to get into today, Brian. Not surprising, you've got something from Dead Words Brewing. You've got their Timberline Pacific Northwest IPA. You've got from Beer Zombie, Zombie Duck Hunter, which is a West Coast IPA from Jay Wakefield. Sounds like a lot of Florida happening here, Brian. You have
Yeah, a fair amount.
UJP Porter, which is a smoked English style porter. Nate has the Seed, a living beer project. Moments, which is just an ordinary bitter style ale. From 8th State, he's got Coating Consistency, which is an imperial stout with toasted coconut, almond, walnut, and 5 different vanillas. Madness.
I didn't know there were that many vanillas.
There's vanillas everywhere, Brian. So
Apparently.
many vanillas. Me, I have one from Scofflaw called Hop Shatter. A little backstory in this beer. This is a Hop Shatter Hazy IPA. This beer was brewed for the 2023 Craft Brewers Conference, and it's showcasing CGX cryogenic lupulin pellets.
Wow.
Fancy, right?
It sounds fancy.
So these pellets, these CGX pellets, they're packed with resins and oils that give off a ton of flavor and aroma. They have less environmental impact and production waste from normal hop pellets. This particular one features Motueka CGX, Amarillo CGX, and Cashmere T90. And they're telling me I should get citrus, floral, white grape, and fresh berries in this beer. Y'all, I'm going to say this. A lot of times Scofflaw's beers are a little too bitter, a little too punchy for me. This is absolutely banging with flavor and aroma, but very soft and smooth on the palate. So I've got cans for you guys that I'll get to you when I can. Again, thank you to my friend Joe at Scofflaw for sharing some of these with me. But right now, this is what I'm getting all up into, and it's pretty darn tasty.
Are you getting the citrus, floral, white
Hold
grape,
on.
and fresh berry stuff?
I didn't want to take up too much time to evaluate here, but let me get a sip on this while you ramble about something.
Well, and I had to know when I saw all the technology and the stats and all the tasting notes. I'm like, I need to know how much of this is true, because I don't know. Is Joe a liar? Joe could be a liar. Probably not, but-
lemon.
Okay.
So I'm assuming that hits the citrus. I get the floral. The white grape is there. White grape is pretty unique in the grape family there. Let me see if I get any berries real quick here.
If it doesn't have berries, then it could just GTFO.
Just toss it out.
Berries and what else?
Well, I mean, there's profanity written up in the show notes, but I don't think that's part of the tasting notes.
I'm not sure I get the berries. And that could be me. I will admit that this is probably served a little warmer than it should be right now. I took it out of the fridge a little sooner than I should, I think, getting ready for the show. But Still good. I've got another one to ice down and serve a little colder, but I do get definitely there's lemon, there's floral there. That white grape comes through, and I will do my continued research to see if I can find those berries.
It does sound good though.
Yeah, it's
I'm on
tasty. I
board.
think you'll enjoy it. Yeah, I'll get
Yeah.
you guys some for sure. Well, Brian, let's get right into it. Get into your fancy pants news stories. What you got for us?
All right, we'll get started with Constellation Brands are doing something interesting. They are completely getting out of the craft beer business. So this is this is something people have been talking a lot about. It's apparently they're just killing it with Mexican import beers, and they're happy with that, and they think that's what they need to do going forward. And that means that they are turning over the ownership of Funky Buddha Brewery in Florida and Four Corners Brewing Company in Texas to their respective original members. Now, to be clear, they're not just giving it away; the owners are buying it back. But like the original sales, we don't really have any financial details to relate, but there is some sort of a financial transaction happening. So I'm thinking if they're motivated to get out, the owners may be getting a great deal on this. Like get your brewery back for a fraction of what you sold it. Maybe, I don't know. Um, this seems like the continuation of a trend that just suddenly started happening, and I don't think anybody predicted it was happening. Like we could see that buyouts and consolidations being a thing that's going to happen as the market changes, but breweries returning to their original owners, getting bought back is I don't think it's anything anybody predicted that I've heard of.
I don't think
Uh,
so.
yeah, because we've seen stuff like the platform is the one that comes to mind where they just like this is an underperforming craft brewery under our AB InBev's craft segment, whatever the heck they call it, the high end or whatever it was called. Uh, and they closed the tap room, they closed the brewery. They didn't kill the brand exactly, but they kept it like 3 IPAs alive with their name on it, and that's being produced wherever AB InBev decides to produce it. Probably Goose Island is my guess, but I have no idea. And so it's gone. It's been wrapped up, and it may, if it doesn't continue to sell well, those beers will slowly go away, and the platform will cease to exist. So it's interesting that Constellation previously acquired Ballast Point for $1 billion in 2015, and then later sold Ballast Point to Kings and Convicts for $41 million in 2020. So they have not done really well in the craft game. I can see why they would be interested in getting out, because I know that the Mexican style beers, the Mexican lagers, are just absolutely killing it. I enjoy drinking them. I know they're growing, so I can see why they would go that direction. Just say, hey, we're done with all this special fancy pants expensive beer. Let's go to what sells easy.
Well, here's something we've talked about a good bit with some of our breweries here in Georgia closing is that the game is a little different. This isn't a distribution game so much anymore, unless you're doing the macro beers like the Mexican lagers that they're talking about. Those are ones you get out to the masses there. But craft, people are drinking it on site. It is harder and harder to take a craft brand across the country and make it worthwhile. There's always going to be some. I would love for Firestone Walker to start distributing here in Georgia. But Brian, I've got to admit, I said the same thing about Cascade. I bought Cascade when they first came to Georgia. I haven't bought one in forever. It's something that, I really think, hey, it's going to be super nice to have this, but it's here. You just kind of take it for granted. And there's a ton of other great beer on the shelf and continuing to be added to the shelves. So, it's distribution game is hard. People are drinking local more and more, and it's just a change in the way the game is played there, man. So it's not surprising to me to see Constellation coming out, the AB InBev buybacks. We're also seeing, I've already forgotten which ones it was. I actually think it was, I forget the brewery, but it was like a seltzer company bought them. And it's like 4 different seltzer companies in this brewery formed a conglomerate or whatever. And, we've seen this with others like Bivana that we've talked about before, that Orpheus has partnered with, Pontoon Brewing has partnered with a lot of breweries in the Carolinas. We see like Scofflaw and Bearded Iris. I forget the name of that union, but they've got thing. We're seeing a lot more breweries come together for power in numbers. Buy more grains in bulk and get lower prices on your grains. Buy cans in bulk and get lower prices on your cans. Sean from Pontoon Brewing came on our local beer forum on the Reddit ATL beer forum and gave us kind of a breakdown of what it meant to him going with, signing with Bevana, and it's not insubstantial. And they talked about just something like buying cans, the amount of money that a brewer can save over there by going in with that group for the buy is substantial. So I think as we see things, we see things continue to change here. I wouldn't be surprised in the least to see more breweries joining their Wonder Twin powers together there, or triplet powers. Who knows, man? Who knows?
I'm keeping an eye on Bevana because I think I wasn't sure about them when we first became aware of them and what they were doing. But as they've grown, I think that might be one of the better games in town for somebody looking to leverage the power of a greater business to get yourself going, keep your costs down, keep your profits up, that sort of thing. Just get your beer available to as many people as possible. And yeah, I kind of like that approach. Yeah, I think in the past maybe I would have seen it as selling out, but I get it, and I think that they're doing the best. They're doing right by the people. And one of the two important things to me is I saw Unknown Brewing, which I liked, and I enjoyed some of their beer when it was distributed here. They stopped making it altogether. Well, it got revived by the owner in Bevana because the guy that had been doing it just didn't have time for it, and so now he can do the creative parts and they can brew the beer. And so it's a brand that just went away and then came back with the help of Bevana. And with Orpheus closing down and having tried the Bevana transmigration, I'm very happy with that. So that means that I continue to get a beer that I very much like without, I wouldn't have gotten it basically otherwise.
Right.
I think
if that option wasn't there, they just would have been gone.
Yeah, Orpheus just would have been gone. I don't think there was a plan B for that. I think that worked and they went forward. Maybe there was and we just don't know, but I like the idea of being able to get that beer and possibly other beers that I have enjoyed from them in the future. Now the big barrel stouts, probably not going to see those again. That's sad, but I do have a massive cellar.
Got a few, right?
Stouts, so
got
I'll be okay for a while. The diabetes will get me before I run out of stouts. Let's just say that. So
absolutely. And Brian, related to that story that I was just talking about, I didn't see your notes here, but Appalachian Mountain Brewery is the one that popped back from AB and
yes,
they're there in the in North Carolina, and like you said, kind of what's the opposite of selling out here? These guys are going back, and I imagine there's not a lot of pushback from ABI on these, just because of the way the market is. If someone comes in and they want to get that done, that they're able to. So, and the original founder, Chris Zieber and Nathan Kelichek, they've reacquired. This is in Boone, North Carolina, and it was originally acquired by the Craft Brew Alliance in 2018, and then CBA was acquired by AB InBev in 2020. So it took them 8 months to make the deal happen and to get that done. Looking ahead for them, it includes looking for a contract brewing partner and opening a new tap room in Mills River. And for those that aren't aware, Mills River, North Carolina, is where the big Sierra Nevada facility is out here in the east.
That'll be cool.
So, yes, interesting, Brian. I see you put a note here. The Bojangles hard sweet tea actually stays with AB InBev.
They know what's up. They're like, no, you don't get that sweet. You may have brewed that
tea.
You may have brewed it, but you don't get to keep that. You can have the brewery, but we get to keep the hard sweet tea.
If you're not in a location with the Bojangles, you should relocate your entire family right now and go get you a sweet tea and a chicken biscuit from Bojangles, and you'll be like, you know what, this relo was completely and totally worth it. So
necessary.
Yeah, sounds like a big factor in this was the need to be nimble and flexible, get away from the cruise ship mentality of AB InBev there. So good talk on growth, changes, expansion. So I hope this works out well for them. It would be great if it did. So
they sound super optimistic.
That's good. Come in with a positive attitude, make it happen, man. But I would like to give a shout out to one of our amazing sponsors right now, Truck and Tap. They've been with us again since the very beginning. They've got Brian. I just saw they've got another location coming. There's going to be 4 Truck and Taps in the Metro Atlanta area. You got Woodstock, you got Duluth, you got Alpharetta. Location coming in Lawrenceville, and the Taps at Feast up at the Battery there by the Brave Stadium. So go in, get whatever beer you want. They keep the taps rotating, so you got something fresh. There's going to be a new food truck there. Some of the locations even have a kitchen on site, Brian. So if a food truck can't make it, they're still going to have some grub for you there. If you're not a beer drinker, they've got cocktails, man. There's hard liquor there too. You can get a little bit of everything for anyone there. But Truck and Tap, big fans, love them, love going out, having something new to drink and eat all times. So if you're around a Truck and Tap, definitely check them out. Awesome.
Definitely.
Y'all, we are going to take a quick break. We'll be back in about 5 minutes. We're going to get some beer and we're going to powder our noses, as they say. And we'll be back in just a few minutes. Dun dun dun. We are back. Move this around. So, all right, stop messing with things.
Musical squares.
All right, just so people don't come back and like it's switched around. Nate, I think me and you kept clicking on each other on that "be right back" thing because we put it up.
We did. Old habits die hard, and I thought I was supposed
Yeah,
to be doing that.
you are.
I have a new beer.
You are. I should have left it alone, Nate. What are you drinking, Brian?
I am drinking the Beer Zombies. It's a brand I have been. Oh wow, it's blurring it out.
Yeah,
I've been interested. I have been interested in this brand since
throw your hand behind it and see if it helps with the.
That's fine. I'll take my hand off of the beer so I can.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
I can better do this thing here.
Also, while you're getting that ready, cheers, Steven. Good to see you as always.
Cheers.
Yeah, see that work. That gives you that
Zombie
gives you
Duck Hunt. This was recommended by I think his name was Dan at GB Bottle Shop. Cool guy, and he'd had this. He said you should pick this up. It's good, and I've been interested in the Beer Zombies thing for a while.
Yeah.
I guess
they do a lot of merch too that's got some cool stuff on it. But here's the I'm trying to see, does that have some? No, I think it's just my camera kind of acting weird there on the. I thought maybe they were like metallic hop cones, but they're not. Still, I dig that can. Pretty simple. I like the color scheme on it and stuff. But yeah, you guys are going to enjoy that one.
For a second,
what you got? Is that your 8th state?
That's my 8th state. It's a collaboration with Moxa, Tripping Animals, Other Half, and Weldworks in Bottle Logic.
Okay,
you've got two breweries that are featured in a story that's coming up a little later.
Ooh,
like you're drinking on, they're involved. So
fun stuff. All right, Brian, let me cue you back in here. You ready?
Yep.
Brian, you and I have traded beer before. We've got beer, we've traded beer and all this. And so far it has been required that you ship, or not required, but highly recommended you ship beer either FedEx or UPS. And
Correct.
one of the main reasons is you're really not supposed to do it with any of them, but with the United States Postal Service, it's actually a federal offense to do that. So
yeah,
you kind of stay out of a little more trouble if you get caught with FedEx or UPS. You may lose your package or whatever, but with the Postal Service, if they want, they can throw out a crime there. So, and yeah, we got the Beer Jesus here from Twitch, and like he said, when you ship FedEx, that yeast products, yeast samples, something like that. That's the way the way you ship it. What do you ship?
Isolated yeast samples.
That's exactly right. So this is for science, people. This is for
what's
science.
The one WLP 001? Like, he has a lot of bottles of that. He's really into shipping that around.
Check it out. Share. Tell me what you find out. But Brian, that may change. Is that right?
That is correct. Congress, members of Congress have introduced a USPS Shipping Equity Act. In short, it's a bipartisan legislation that would allow USPS to ship alcohol, beer, wine, and spirits in states where it is currently legal to do so. And they are quick to point out that that's all it does. It doesn't change the legalities in any of the states. It just says, hey, if you can do this legally in a state, we're letting it. We're letting you use USPS to do that.
So honestly, Brian, that still would not apply to us trading beer or sending our yeast samples, correct?
Probably not.
Okay, all right.
Probably not. But I mean, this is getting into something I was going to mention a little later. It kind of seems like we're already sort of doing that in a way through legal loopholes, and so I'm wondering. You know what? Let me finish this. I'll get back to that.
Go on, Brian.
So the bill was introduced by Representatives Dan Newhouse, who's a Republican from Washington, and Jennifer Wexton, a Democrat from Virginia, and it has 8 co-sponsors. So the interesting thing to me, and I never thought about this, but the current ban on shipping alcohol dates all the way back to Prohibition. This has not changed. Like, it was made illegal with Prohibition, and it never became illegal. So that's a holdover from the 1920s, if you can believe it. And it seems like a holdover from the 1920s. So in addition to helping out alcohol producers, if they were to pass this and get it through, this lifting this ban would also bring in millions for the Postal Service. So there's reasons on the other side to do this. They're thinking they might make as much as $180 million annually for the Postal Service if they allowed people to ship beer. and it would help consumers get access to products they can't currently buy due to, geography, travel, and distributor consolidation, which apparently is causing people grief. Some places distributors get together, they consolidate, they drop some brands, and you can't get those brands anymore, like unless you're going to drive to another state or wherever.
Brian, a quick comment on that.
Yeah,
I guess worse for the brewers, there's in some areas where they just kind of quit promoting certain brands. They don't necessarily drop them, and it hurts the brewer. But because the distributor has the power in that situation, they don't have to push your brand. They have to carry your brand in that, but they don't want to necessarily release you from that contract and let somebody else pick you up because they don't want the competition, and they don't have to. So there's a lot of things in there talking about feeling the stress from distribution. There's several angles that can hurt a brewery.
And if you're feeling conspiratorial, and I'm not saying this ever happens, but it probably does, it's possible that behind the scenes, a brewery and a distributor get together. There's something happens, maybe money falls out of one guy's pocket into another, and there's a reason to not promote one brand at all, but continue to promote an existing brand. Both the distributor handles both of those, and then not let the other guy off the hook to go pursue other distributors. So theoretically, it's possible that this gives them an outlet to avoid that kind of scenario, which, theoretically could happen, allegedly, possibly,
in theory.
So the thing is this bill sounds great, but I think you were telling me before that this has been introduced before and hasn't passed.
I think it did make it to a bill one time. I know it's been mentioned several times that, let's get this shipping. I actually need to look. I know it was talked about on Reddit several years ago. That's like, hey, they're talking about doing this. They're talking about doing this. So I don't know if this is the first or second time that the bill's gone up, but it is something that's been tossed around for a while. And I really shouldn't say that in a way to discourage or deflate this, because that's common with these kind of things. We've been talking about self distribution in Georgia for probably at least a decade, probably two or more, and it's something that, yes, it's been talked about, but there's certain things that in order to make them happen, they do have to go up several times before you make headway there. And sometimes it's a matter of knocking down other hurdles to get to that point. So, hopefully wish for the best here.
Yeah, I think I crossing my fingers. I think that this might be the right time because, again, I have seen places like, other half in the brewery shipping beers that I am presumably legally able to receive using, I believe, what are legal loopholes that involve distributors. And I'm thinking that if this is happening in a lot of places, the federal government's leaving money on the table. Now, I guess the USPS, I know people debate whether or not that's actually a government agency. I think it's quasi something. I don't care. The point is money is being left on the table. If people are doing this already, why wouldn't you get into this game and let people ship the products they're shipping? We've got great shippers. We've got these fantastic things that I have of the shipments I've received, all of them, I believe, legally. Not a single one of them has had any kind of leakage, explosions, anything. Like, it's not going to damage other products. They all have ID verification and all these giant forms requiring it. It's as safe as it could be. So I don't see a reason not to get into it now. I think it's been thoroughly vetted, and I think that there's the overwhelming evidence of people using it that will make it pass. I hope so. I think so.
Yeah,
so, I don't know. We'll see.
Could be a good option. That's for sure, man. That and they're keeping it to people who are legally authorized to do so. So, like you talked about with the shipping and packing and all of that, it'll be done properly. And another way to ship, more revenue for the USPS.
Right? Yeah,
absolutely.
Indeed. So, you know what? Let me move on. Into something that's completely different in a different region of the world. The crime-fighting Trappist monks. I'm excited about this. They've had it up to here. And you don't get the visual if you're just listening, but I'm moving my hand near my head
But
somewhere.
trust Brian, that hand
Yeah,
is up there. That's how
it's up
far
there
they've had
high,
it.
and they're over it with you reselling their beer. And I'm talking about Sixtus Abbey specifically, the guys that are famous for Westfleturen 12 or Westy 12, as we like to say.
Right.
They are fighting a secondary markup situation with a new sales strategy for at least a year. During this year-long trial period, their beer will be distributed directly in the Netherlands by an importer. So they're not going to require you to come to the brewery anymore. They are going to work with an importer to send their beer to the Netherlands. That is to combat the significant markup that's happening in the Netherlands, where their €2 a bottle beer is being sold for as much as €10 a bottle.
Yeah.
So they don't really have a problem with more people drinking their beer. The problem they have is people drinking their beer at a reasonable price and not being gouged by this gray market situation that's happening there. So the beers that they will be exporting are Westy Blonde, Westy 8, and of course Westy 12. So if your illicit Westy 12 source is a shady convenience store in the Netherlands, you might find yourself cut off sometime soon. So,
Done.
and
I have seen.
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I have seen places here that got a hold of Westy 12 in the US that have had it listed for up to $50 a bottle,
Oh, I'm
and
not surprised.
and I tell you what, there was a time I would have paid that just to be able to get my hands on that beer. And there's plenty of people that will do it right now, so it's the Belgian beers, those Abiels are changing. Monks don't want to monk anymore. So, our people don't want to be monks anymore. So it's affecting all those Abiels. And let me ask you, Nate, you've had Westy 12, correct?
No.
You've never had. Do you still have some bottles, Brian? I think I may have one.
I may have some bottles.
Okay.
Somewhere.
That's,
I'll have to look.
I will tell you this. The first time I ever had Westy 12, I was underwhelmed. And I think it just got built up too much to the point that I'm like, okay. I've had it since then and really enjoyed it. And I'll be honest, I forget which one it is, but the green cap, is that 8? I think blue cap on the 12.
I think it's blue on 12, green is 8, and yellow is the half or the blonde. They have a yellow blonde. And they actually started putting a small label on the bottles too, like within the past year or two. So,
yes, so
theoretically you would actually get more than just the cap to tell you what's in there.
Yeah. And the Beer Jesus here, he's got a pro tip for you. Get your St. Bernardus Abt 12 and, save some money there, because apparently they are birthed of the same recipe and, does really well. But no, we are not thinking of St. Bernardus. This is Westy. They started adding labels. There was the U.S. shipment back 2014, maybe, that they
Something
did
like
a special
that,
release to the U.S., but there were some others that were the Abbey releases that people just packed over here, muled over here, and then, went up for sale certain places. So I did get some from that US release. It was hard to get, but I scored some of that and got some of the cool tasting glasses, which I got to admit, I really like that little tasting glass that came in that set. But yeah, fun stuff, man. The monks, we're going to be challenged to have our Trappist L's much anymore.
Yeah, I remember there was a Belgium in a box that went away, but for a while you could get a flat or an entire box of Westy 12, and they've apparently had a really a great deal of success at stomping out the secondhand market in Belgium itself, which is why they're going after the Netherlands. And that might be part of the reason we can't get it ordered anymore.
It's gone.
But I have been there and had I went to what effectively was a junket and had a flat of it sitting out there, and somehow it's a little less special when there's just a giant flat of them.
You're one of those people,
anybody
Brian.
can just grab them.
You're one of those people. It's like, oh, I wish they'd make more. I wish they'd get it out there. And then Brian's like, that's a shelf turd.
Yeah.
That's a shelfie.
I did enjoy them, and somebody else that was on the trip with me hoarded them. Like a lot of them disappeared quickly. I'm like, what are you doing, man?
Yeah.
This is so shady. Why are you doing that? So
talking to that site. Sorry, Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, the Trappist would disapprove of you. Greatly.
They would. There was a time with that Belgium in a box that even though some of the beers they had on there we got in distro in Georgia, it was less expensive for us to order them from Belgium and have them shipped than to pay the price on the shelf here in Georgia via the distributors. And I remember ordering cases, Brian, of the Oud Goose, the Dre
That's
Fontenay's
right.
Goose.
Yeah.
I'd tell my friends, I'm like, hey guys, I'm going to make a Belgium in a box order. What do you want? Place your orders here, because the more I order, the less shipping is, and it ends up being cheaper than getting it on the shelf here in Georgia. That's hard to argue with.
Those prices were so crazy good. Like, looking
They
back on it,
were.
I don't know
Yeah.
why I didn't order more of them. And the great thing about that is of all the beers I've hoarded, I've not hoarded those. Those have all been consumed. Like, not a single one of those.
I'm not looking to flip
Yeah.
anything. I
No,
want to drink
not
them,
even
man.
a
I'm
bit.
getting them to drink for
We
sure.
enjoyed them because they're reasonably priced. They were a lot of fun, and there was always a good occasion to open them. So yeah, I don't know why those. I just blew through those. Maybe they're a little easier to drink than your 14% stout.
Yeah. But speaking of Belgian style beers, we're going to have a show coming up in about a month, I think it is, but we're going to deep dive into Belgian styles a little bit. We're going to a Belgian beer festival here in the US. But we're going to use that as an opportunity to dive into Belgian beers a little bit more, and absolutely guaranteed these Trappist Abbey ales will be talked about for sure.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Looking
So
forward
Brian, speaking of breweries in general, brewery growth, we know it's a challenging time out there, but there's still some folks growing. Per Untapped, you've got stats on the fastest growing breweries right now, correct?
I do, and it's crazy to think of people growing like these are growing given the current environment and where the industry is. But yes, there are some. And love it or hate it, Untapped is a good source of interesting beer data, especially if you're a beer or a data nerd, and I'm both. So so the stats in question that I'm looking at are based on the growth in check-ins from 2020 to 2022. In terms of just raw numbers, raw check-ins growth, the number one growing beer, or number one brewery growing since in that period of time, is New York's Fiddens Brewing Company, which I've never heard of. They had the
Fidens?
largest growth increase of 105,653 check-ins during that period. So that's a growth over whatever that was they had prior. So an additional 100,000 people were checking their beers in. That's huge. Florida's Tripping Animals, which I've heard a lot about, and I see them everywhere, they grew by 55,000 additional check-ins. And Delaware's Dewey Brewing Company, which I also have not heard of, they grew by 50,000. So these guys are really killing it right now. Now there's also a percentage growth, and that listing is a little different. So Delaware's First State Brewing Company grew by over 3,000% in that 2-year period. Tennessee's Zool Brewing Company, a beer company, Zool, XUL with an umlaut over the U.
Sounds like Zool, right?
I think it's Zool. Is that a Ghostbuster reference?
I think that's Ghostbusters.
Yeah, I think so. It's a 1,328% growth in check-ins over that 2-year period. And this is during COVID and everything. New Jersey's The Seed, a living beer project, is up by 222%. And that's, I believe, one of the beers that Mike Nate has that he's drinking. I happen to notice, because I was down in Florida, as we've discussed, that there's a couple of Florida beers that are on the list that I haven't mentioned, and I can confirm that I saw those beers everywhere. And I'm talking specifically about Magnanimous Brewing and Woven Water Brewing, and I had beers from each of them. They showed up on a lot of tap lists, so I believe that they're growing anecdotally. So there is a lot of growth out there if you're the right brewery, and it's crazy time because you see some breweries closing down, you see other breweries just exploding. So
now, I have quite this important distinction here, Brian. We're talking strictly about numbers of check-ins on Untap, or percentage growth of check-ins.
Correct. Yes.
This doesn't necessarily correlate directly to actual brewery growth, correct?
That's true. That's true. You are looking at a subset of data. These are very dedicated beer nerds, or whatever, whoever's using Untap. So it is confined to that amount. So theoretically, Voodoo Ranger's not going to show up in here, but Voodoo Ranger will probably kill all these guys in stats, because they've been growing
numbers, right?
gangbusters.
Yeah.
But people drinking Voodoo Ranger are less likely, perhaps, to check that in on Untapped. I mean,
True.
you know what? A fair percentage of people would, but there's an even greater percentage that wouldn't, is what I'm saying. So they extend beyond just the Untapped user. So this is focusing on beer nerds, basically, I guess, is the best way to put it.
Yeah, I mean, still an interesting stat to see that these beers are being. You can take that. Hey, this is the beer geeks, but there's a relation to the percentage of increased consumption of these beers to that. It's probably not a direct correlation, or maybe someone's just a super fan and they just sat down all day and check in the beers. Who knows?
It's
Who
possible.
knows, man?
Yeah.
Who knows?
The Beer Jesus is talking about Voodoo Ranger being the one that killed Stone IPA, and I don't doubt it. Honestly, I don't
Okay.
doubt it. I think
Yeah.
they may
Yeah.
have. I could see there being overlap there, and I could see one being a little bit more appealing going forward than the other, perhaps, because
Interesting.
I
Yeah.
think I see something there. Yeah, I think that's possible.
I mean, and no slide on Stone. They've had a rough go of things, but I just haven't heard a lot of hype for them in a few years for anything that they've
No.
done. So Stone IPA, I was talking to some we have a group in Atlanta called the Atlanta Area Build Beer Elders, which I was offended when they invited me to their Facebook group. But they're the old dudes that go around enjoying craft beer. And we were talking about how you'll see people like the newer generation of drinkers, as you may want to say, they'll scoff at like a Pliny or a Stone IPA, or something like that. And it's like, look, these guys may not be the hippest, coolest style right now, but you got to respect your elders. You got to know where things came from, because if Pliny hadn't happened, if Anchor Steam hadn't happened, if Sleeve White hadn't happened, these other beers never would have.
That's correct. Yeah.
You may not think that Pliny is the most exciting beer in the world right now, but guaranteed that they were paving the way and they were making those changes to get to the beers that we have today. So respect to the elders, the originators, the OGs.
I would still be excited to get some Pliny, and that's
Yeah,
one I
it's
kind of
still a
hope that
good
they
beer,
make it
man.
over here. Yeah, like the shipping. I hope
Right.
that's something I can start getting is shipping, because that was. I know it's revealing my age, but the excitement about being able to get fresh ones and how good it was, I'd still go for that.
When
Yeah.
Ed Sheeran came to Atlanta last weekend and he bartended at Sweetwater and then played a quick concert and bought everybody beer, I hope he had a chance to enjoy a fresh Sweetwater IPA straight from the tap.
Oh yeah,
Because that's another one that it may not get a lot of love. Even in the name of Sweetwater beers, 420 kind of overshadows it, but fresh Sweetwater IPA it's delicious. It's a fantastic beer.
From the source, it's a fantastic beer, and
Yeah.
it should be experienced if you can. Yeah.
If you can do it, then do it. Brian, some scary news for hops out there and hop farmers. We got bugs in our
That's
hop
right.
crops.
I heard people wanted more bad news about the beer industry.
Always,
and, everything. So I went and found this. Actually, all about beer, found this and then terrified me. So I'm going to terrify you in turn. So the spotted lanternfly is it's coming, and it wants to eat your hop crops. It's an invasive species. It's causing problems in the Northeast currently. I don't think it's a huge problem yet, but it's starting to be. It was first detected back in 2014 in Pennsylvania. They come from Asia. It's not, I don't know how exactly they got here, but luggage or who knows.
You know what? They can come in shipping containers. A lot of them I've heard come in like produce shipments and stuff. They do a lot of stuff to keep them out, but still happens.
So apparently the thing about this bug is it likes to feed on wine vines and hop vines. Fortunately, it does seem to like wine vines better than more than hop vines, which is good for me, but it's bad for the wine people. Sorry, wine people. The flies aren't actually good flyers, so this is a good thing. They're called flies, but they don't really fly. They kind of skip, or they just don't fly distances. So their spread has been kind of slow. They have to get on something and ride along. So they're the laziest of flies, probably because they're drunk. I don't know. It is thought they spread by laying their eggs on cars and trains is the way they get around the most. And their eggs are kind of hard to identify. I think they're described as they look like a dirt smudge or something like that. But that little streak or whatever, it could be like 40 or 50 eggs. So you got 40 or 50 flies that could fly out of that. There is a public awareness campaign in New England to educate the people and to let them know that they need to kill these bugs if they see them, and please do kill them if you see them. When they feed on plants, they weaken them and they make them more susceptible to other problems, including mold growth. there are concerns that these flies may make their way to the West Coast, which would be terrifying, and start chewing on hop crops as early as 2027. Though I have seen in the article that there have been isolated sightings of these bugs in Oregon and Washington already, so it might already be too late for that. But they're slow moving, and they stressed that if you find them, you report it, and it's because of the way they don't fly very well and they don't get around too fast. It may be possible for them to stomp out these isolated sightings before they become real problems. So check that out. If you see, I don't have a description of the bugs, unfortunately, but Google that. Google the spotted lantern fly. It's got a little red streak in it, and if you see that, crush it.
Lazy bugs that they're wine and hops and being lazy, and they're like, you know what, man, let's just eat some wine vines here and chill.
Yeah,
hey, you guys, I've heard there's great wine out in like Washington, Oregon. You guys, no, well, I'm fine, man. We'll just hang here. You know what? Let me plant some eggs on this car. It looks like it's headed west. Maybe the next generation can do that.
Or maybe they pass out on a car or a train. Like, oh no, we're on the West Coast.
Is this Michigan?
Yeah, I'm so hungover right now. Where's some wine vines?
Good stuff. Awesome, man. Well, guys, great info, some good stories this week. Thank you so much. I think that about wraps it up for this episode of the Beer Guys Radio Show. As always, we thank y'all for tuning in. We definitely appreciate it. If you want more craft beer news and info, we're on all the socials. We're just going crazy out there. I'm still looking for continued validation on my short videos that I'm posting to YouTube. Got another one in the works right now, so keep an eye out for that. But please do validate me. I need it. It's really my only means of existence over here. So, yeah, definitely go out there and do it. But once again, thanks for tuning in. Have a great week, and don't forget to drink local. Cheers. Boom. We did it. Beer Jesus, thanks for following us, man. We appreciate it.
The Brewhova's witnesses, beer monks.
You know what? I haven't had anything from Great Lakes in a while. The Edmund Fitzgerald I had last, I really enjoyed that. But I feel like I heard someone else mention that. I don't know what's going on, but now that you mentioned it, I believe that I've heard that before. But I saw another comment you made, though. The Z stuff. Zoigl. Brian, have you heard of Zoigl? Nate, have you heard of Zoigl?
Zoigl.
No.
Yeah. Okay. Let me see.
Yeah, it's been a while. We had Great Lakes on the show July of last year.
July? Okay. Oh, coming up on
July. Okay.
Creeping on. Zoigl is a type of German beer brewed in Oberpfalz, eastern Bavaria, between Franconia and the Czech Republic. What is a Zoigl beer? Let's see. Zoigl is a bottom fermented beer, Untergärges Bier, I think that's correct, which is brewed according to traditional methods in 5 towns of the Oberpfalz, a region located in the east of the German state of Bavaria, adjacent to the border of the Czech Republic. They're not giving us a lot on the flavor profile on that, but it sounds like something I would dig. And it sounds like the Rhine Hoskebot in this thing. So
it's that's what it's like a little regional, their regional it's a bottom fermenting, so it's a regional lager,
a regional lager there.
Yeah. I mean, I'm down
lager
for that.
Beer.
I do enjoy my German lagers a fair amount.
Yeah. So no, that's not one we were familiar with, Jesus. We appreciate you telling us about that. Well, y'all, we're going to wrap up our live stream now. If you are one of our Patreon supporters, we are going to post a link in our Discord chat. You can come hang with us for the after party, chat with us, get on video chat, and have some beers. That will be in the Discord chat here very shortly. But everybody, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. We'll see you again next week. Nate, take us out of here.